The word for this video is calls. As a noun, calls means a telephone conversation. For example, I received several calls today. As a noun, calls means a short visit, usually for social purposes. For example, I paid a call to a dear friend of mine. As a noun, calls means a visit by a ship or boat to a port. For example, the ship made a call at Southampton. As a noun, calls means a cry or shout. For example, he heard a call from the other side of the room. As a noun, calls means a decision or judgment. For example, that was a good call. As a noun, calls means the characteristic cry of a bird or other animal. For example, that sound is the distinctive call of the cuckoo bird. As a noun, calls means a beckoning or summoning. For example, I had to yield to the call of the wild. As a noun, calls means the right to speak at a given time during a debate or other public event. The flow. For example, I give the call to the manager of opposition business. As a noun, calls means an option to buy stock at a specified price during or at a specified time. As a noun, calls means the act of calling to the other batsman. As a noun, calls means the state of being the batsman whose role it is to call. Depends on where the ball goes. As a noun, calls means a work shift which requires one to be available when requested. See on call. As a noun, calls means the act of jumping to a subprogram, saving the means to return to the original point. As a noun, calls means a statement of a particular state or rule, made in many games such as bridge, craps, jacks, and so on. For example, there was a $20 bet on the table, and my call was 9. As a noun, calls means the act of matching a bet made by a player who has previously bet in the same round of betting. As a noun, calls means a note blown on the horn to encourage the dogs in a hunt. As a noun, calls means a whistle or pipe, used by the boatswain and his mate to summon the sailors to duty. As a noun, calls means an invitation to take charge of or serve a church as its pastor. As a noun, calls means vocation, employment, calling. As a noun, calls means a reference to or statement of an object, course, distance, or other matter of description in a survey or grant requiring or calling for a corresponding object. etc. On the land. As a noun, calls means prostitution, a meeting with a client for paid sex, hookup, job. As a verb, calls means heading, to use one's voice. As a verb, calls means heading, to visit. As a verb, calls means heading, to name, identify or describe. As a verb, calls means heading, direct or indirect use of the voice. As a verb, calls means sometimes with for, to require, demand. For example, he felt called to help the old man. As a verb, calls means to announce the early extinction of a debt by prepayment, usually at a premium. As a verb, calls means to demand repayment of a loan. As a verb, calls means to jump to another part of a program, to perform some operation, returning to the original point on completion. For example, a recursive function is one that calls itself. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more word videos.